Hey, how you doing? Justin here, and today I'm going to start you on your journey of learning songs on your own. Now, a lot of people are like, "Oh, can't do that, it's too difficult." Well, you can. Okay, it is difficult. The learning curve when you first start trying to learn songs by yourself, by ear, is steep. It's tricky, but you got to just push through it. So I'm going to make it as painless as I possibly can. Basically, I was going to do some tracks, make up some backing tracks and play the parts, and then you could work it out and kind of simplify it, simplify the rhythm and simplify the arrangement. But actually, I think there'll be a lot more benefit from doing real songs right away. Just jump in at the deep end. However, I've very carefully curated the songs, so I know these are really good songs to start off with. They got relatively simple chords, simple rhythms. The parts are kind of obvious. There's not too much hidden trickery going on that might, throw you a curveball and put you off the scent of the track. So it's going to work for you, but it is going to take a little bit of grit. You are going to have to just sit down and go like, oh, this is really difficult. I'm struggling. It doesn't feel like I got anything done today in my practice session, but you will have. So always try and remember that even if you're feeling like it's a bit tricky, it's going to be doing you good anyway. It's like when you go for a run. Sometimes you go for a run, it's all easy and it's all cool. And other times you go for a run, it's like, oh man, I feel exhausted. But it still does you the good. Whether you found it really easy and really fun or whether you found it a bit of a slog that day, you're still getting fitter. And it's the same with transcribing. Even on those, you're really battling it some days, just push through. Try and stick with it. The benefits are great. Being able to learn a song, any song that you like by ear without having to find a tab, being able to correct a tab if you think it sounds a little bit weird, being able to work out songs that don't even have any guitar. There's a lot of great stuff there with transcribing. The really big picture is that when you hear a track and you hear that sound and it goes in your mind, and then you're able to find that sound through the guitar and make that sound that you can hear in your musical imagination come out the instrument, that is a pretty mega skill. Eventually what you do is you don't need that external source, and you can just find sounds in your musical imagination and make them come out of the guitar. And that is, for me, that's kind of the point of the whole thing. The whole musical expression is finding sounds or ideas in my musical imagination and being able to make those sounds come out of the instrument. Now, that ain't going to happen straight away. That's likely to take years of practice, but you're never going to get there if you don't start. And this lesson today is about how to start. So what I'm going to do is take you through the steps that I would recommend that you go through when you decide that you want to try and learn a song on your own, which I'm really hoping you're going to do like this weekend. I should point out, often in a practice routine, I'll assign something this like a 10 minutes a day thing. But for transcribing, usually it's better off in a big chunk. So maybe once a week for 1 hour, you would have a go at transcribing a song. That would be my recommended way that you incorporate this into your practice routine. So let's get started. Step 1, you've decided you want to learn a tune. What are you going to do first? You're going to listen to it at least 5 times in a row, really concentrating on the guitar part. Okay, really try and hone in on what the guitar is doing. How many chords are there? Are they moving around a lot? Are the steps big? How does it sit with the rest of the rest of the band? Can you spot any of the rhythms? Are there any chords that sound familiar? What can you get from listening to it? Try and absorb the sound of the track in your musical imagination. Partly it's about getting the sound in, and partly it's about figuring out the arrangement as well, because as you start trying to jam along with it, you'll notice that most songs have a different verse to a chorus and a bridge. Their chord progressions will be different. So if you've half figured out the verse progression and it gets to the chorus, you can either know, oh, I'm moving to the chorus now, it's a different chord progression, or I can go, okay, I'm going to stop the track now and go back to the beginning of the verse, that kind of thing. So getting a idea of the arrangement in your musical imagination is also a really good idea. So don't skimp on that. So at least 5 times. It's like a 15-minute chunk of your practice is going to be just listening, but it's going to be really valuable. So yeah, don't miss over it. So second thing is trying to jam along with it. And this might seem unrealistic for many people, like, well, I've just listened to a song and suddenly I'm going to be able to play it. Well, maybe not initially, but I want you to have a go at doing it. What you probably find is that you put the track on and most of it's guesswork when you first start. You just be listening to the bass note of the chord. You don't even have to play the whole power chord, just listening to and you're going to find very often that you just about find the chord, and then the chord changes, and then you have to move somewhere else, and then it changes again, and you kind of chase your tail a little bit. But what you'll often find as well is that you get more out of it than you thought. maybe not the first few times, okay? First few times people usually try this, it's, just like, well, I'm not there. It's kind of running in this little wheel going, trying to chase the chords. But the more you do it again, the more you start to recognize again, like, oh, that first chord in each cycle was here. And that way, each time when it's coming back to that, you can find one of the chords. And even if you get through that first jam and you've only figured out a couple of the chords, that will be a really good start. You might find that there's one note that seems to fit through nearly all of the chords. And if that happens, it'll very often be the key center. If you've done a bit of music theory and you know the chords in the key, which is something we cover in grade 3 of my music theory course, if you're doing that, if you know the chords in a key and you find that one note that's likely the key center, you'll probably know the other chords that are very likely to appear in that song. No, they might not. Sometimes, there's always going to be random chords showing up, but very often they're going to be chords from the key. So that can be super helpful as well. So step 3 is now learning to pause. And it sounds a little bit weird, but the last thing you hear stays in your ear. Cool little rhyme. It's really true. So when you're listening to a track, you want to get really used to hitting that pause button and then imagining that last sound that you heard and then trying to find it on the guitar. So you listen to the track, stop. You try and imagine randomly saying an F sharp. So that's how I would find that chord. And then I'd listen to the next one. It goes. So you've got to try and pause the sound and then try and hold that last thing that you've heard in your ear. Hold it in there and then experiment until you find that sound on the instrument. Okay, just remember, you're looking for root notes now. You should know your power chords on the 6th string and the 5th string. So you might be looking on either of those 2 strings, but just look for single notes. It's easy enough to pop the power chords down later. Again, you've got an advantage here because I'm curating the songs. I'm telling you, these songs use power chords. You should be able to do it. Let's have a go. There's simple chord progressions. I'll talk a little bit more about the songs in a second. But the pause thing, really, really a big deal. Learning to just pause it, especially when things get real quick. And it goes diddle-da-da. You go diddle-doo, stop, diddle-doo-doo-doo, and you find that note. Diddle-doo, stop. You just, each time you let it go one more note. When on really fast solos, you might do that one note at a time. For this stuff, right now we're talking easy chords, so hopefully the chords are going to be around for a little bit. If you're stuck on them, just listen to the chord, hit the pause, then try and find that note. Now, really helpful is to have some software that will start from the same place every time rather than starting from where you stopped. Okay, now I use software called Transcribe. I think it's amazing, but there's lots of other bits of software that do the same thing that are built for transcribing, for working out songs on your own. Definitely worth the money. There are some free ones. There's one called Audacity, which is very popular. I just like Transcribe, I think, because I've been using it for so long. But whatever it is that you're trying to do, having it so when you press the spacebar, it plays from the same point each time. So you can listen to that one bit each time you hit the spacebar. So you hit the spacebar, listening, hit the spacebar again, the pause. Okay, so you pause it at the right time. You got it in your ear. Oh, no, it's gone again. Play again, play, listen to it, pause, and then try and find it again. Okay, it's really, really good practice. It really works. But again, all of these skills that I'm talking about developing for you to develop now, they take a bit of practice. Don't expect to be nailing it the first time. Even pausing, which should be really simple, right? You're going to find it's not quite as simple as it might first seem on the box, right? So that's pausing. Now, another part that I just want to mention in here, which is not part of the steps, but is really important, is not trying to get too much detail at this point. Save the detail for me. Save it for later on, right? When you're learning these songs, you're looking for the bass note and the power chord, and that's it. Don't worry about too much other stuff. If there's a second guitar part or there's a little riff in between, just gloss over it. Ignore it. When you first start transcribing, just go for the bones of the tune, the basic chords. Forget any of the fancy stuff. You can always come back and fill it in later as you get more confident with your transcribing. But a lot of beginners, when they're trying to transcribe, they get a little bit in and there's one little thing that they don't get, a chord that they don't get, or a little riff or something, and they just give up and they're like, oh, I can't do it. Just gloss over it. Just leave it. Just leave a little space when you're writing it down, which we're going to talk in a sec. Just leave a little gap and then continue on. Do as much as you can, because you might find that same thing appears a little later in the track and it's more obvious, or you've got more of the chords down, or there's some other little hint that's going to help you fill in that gap. It's exactly the process I do now. When I'm transcribing, I'm going along, I do it as fast as I can, I just leave gaps, and then I come back and fill the gaps in later. Okay, it's a really, really good methodology here for transcribing to bear that in mind. Later on, you can get into all of the detail you want, but to start off with, wouldn't go there. Step 4, transcribing is writing it down. You're going to be the scribe. Now, longer term, I think it's actually better to not write anything down and just learn songs into your musical imagination and leave them there and be able to play them. That's the ultimate way. But especially when you're starting out, it's a lot easier to just write the chords down. So you hear the chord and you go, da da da, that's, oh yeah, no, playing along. Oh, it's a G, excellent. And then you write down the G and then you hit play again. You go G and you're playing along. Do, do. Oh, it's a C, excellent. C, write down, play again. Do, do, do. You know, that kind of thing. Just ending up writing down the chord progressions, really, really helpful. Okay, so don't be afraid of it. At this point, for this first lesson, I wouldn't worry about trying to write down anything to do with the timing. Don't worry about how many bars it's down for or the rhythm of it or anything. Just try and figure out what the chords are. As far as rhythm goes, just try and bash it out as close as you can. Don't be too fussy about that. Mainly what I'd like you to have a go at for this week or several weeks probably will be just trying to figure out the chords of a song. That's it. What we're going to do is I'm going to give you more chords, more power chord songs next lesson, next module, and then another one of power chords. So there's going to be a few, and then we're going to look at open chords, and we're going to look at some riffs and stuff as well. So it's going to be really good fun. It's not all just going to be rock and roll stuff. So if you happen to be a big fan of country music or whatever, do still try and have a go at some of these songs because it'll help you with every style. It's just this is a really good starting point. When we start with other open chords, there are more complex things that go on, capo, grips, and other stuff. So let's talk about the songs. Now, I've got a bunch of songs here that I'm going to mention in the video, but there's going to be more as well that I add. All of the extra information that you might need is going to be on the website, because the basic idea, I'm going to tell you the song, and I'm going to say, hey, this would be a great song to have a go at. I might give you a hint if there's something really unusual or something that you should know about that particular song. So just go and try it. You have a bit of a go and you're like, oh man, I'm just not getting this. This is too difficult. Head back to the website and you'll find that there's tip 1. And that might give you, say, all of the chords in the song but in the wrong order, or the starting chord, different hints depending on the song and what I think that you're likely to be struggling with. Take that one hint, go back and really give it a good go. Don't just have like one go. I'm talking like 10, 15 minutes really trying to do it. Don't be like, have one go and go, oh, I can't do it. Tip 1, what was it? Nah. You really want to push yourself. You want to really dig in, because every time you do that, it's going to make you better. I promise that's how it works. I've taught so many students how to do this. I've seen it. I've used to do transcribing in the room with private students, and I've watched them do it and seen where it goes right and where it goes wrong. And that focus and attention to detail of the tune, just like really trying the effort, it pays off. So don't just go straight into the tips. Okay, so you're really struggling after 10, 15 minutes, go into tip 1. Another 10, 15 minutes with tip 1. Still not getting a tip 2. After tip 2, you should be making some pretty decent progress on it. Okay, because I'm giving you enough hint that you should be, able to get the nuts and bolts of that song down. I should also mention that some of the songs are also in my beginners courses. So if you've been doing my courses and you're already familiar with the song, don't try and transcribe it because you already know it. There's no point, right? There's just no point in doing that. Okay, so if any of those songs you already know it, just go on to the next song and have a go at doing that. You could choose to do all of the songs that I mentioned on the website. You could choose to just do 1 or 2 of them and then move on to the next week. The more of this transcribing you do, the better you're going to get at it. So give it as much as you can. So specific songs. First one's Molly's Lips by Nirvana. A really, really cool song, this one. Very, very easy. I'm not going to give you any more hints than that, but like I said, if you're stuck on this stuff, if you're over on YouTube, there'll be a link in the description over the website. Hopefully you're probably over on the website already, so you just click on the hint 1 button and that hint will appear. Second song, Blitzkrieg Bop by the Ramones. Okay, mostly a 3-chord thing with 1 extra chord that sneaks in there every now and again. I still remember learning that song from a record. Well, hey. And that's a little bit more challenging, but luckily the chord sequence is fairly consistent. This is a good one to write down because there are a couple of points where the chords change where you might not think they do, and a couple of times where you think they're going to change and they don't. So this can be a helpful one to just write down the chords as they go in order. Really good tune. Number 3, All the Small Things. The very intro has some chords in it that might be a little bit baffling, so I would ignore that little intro section and then just start with the verse. You might come back and do the intro again later. It's not that difficult. It is the same chords in the verse, but they just do some stuff in there that might make it a little bit weird to transcribe. So I'd recommend with that one starting with the verse. Next one, Fly Away by Lenny Kravitz. This is the same riff all of the way through the song, even when the guitar drops out and there's just a bass. The harmonies stay the same. So you might find it helpful to listen to that bass part when the guitar drops. Because remember, I said to you, it's figuring out that lowest note of the chord and then popping the power chord down. So sometimes when it drops down to the bass, it can actually be helpful because there's nothing getting in the way. You can just find that one note. The bass is playing a kind of a riff, but and don't get confused with that. There's a couple of other guitar layers going in there which might kind of tweak your ear and make you think there's more to it than there really is. So just ignore that extra stuff for now and just stay focused. I've just seemed to have missed one. No, I haven't. Polly by Nirvana. Now this one uses an open power chord as well. So as well as the regular closed power chords, it uses one where you have the open string in the first finger playing just 2 frets on the 2 strings on the second fret. Hopefully you're familiar with the open power chords as well now. It's 5 chords, different verse progression, different chorus progression. So be aware that there's those 2 different things. Again, you'll get that when you have a good listen to it to start off with. And one more, Go With The Flow by Queens of the Stone Age. Love this tune. Yeah, there are 4 chords. Have a go and see where you get to. Of course, like I said, all of these songs have additional hints over on the website, but try and do it without first. Really give it a good go. I know I keep saying that. I don't want to sound all like broken record and like, oh God, he's still going on about this stuff. But it really is important. And the biggest hurdle that people have with transcribing is giving up because they think it's too hard. So it is hard, no problem. But the benefits are enormous. It really, really will transform you as a musician. Training your ear, learning to listen to time, getting more focused on all that. It's just, there is so much great stuff that happens when you start transcribing. So I'd really encourage you to do it. We cover much more of this sort of thing in the intermediate stages of transcribing, but lead lines as well. But for what I'd class as an advancing beginner, a grade 3 guitar player, you should have by now the chords kind of under your fingers, and you want to brew all of that for a bit. You want to steep in those open chords and power chords and stuff before you jump into learning more major scales and bar chords and all that sort of stuff. You want that to be real solid because you can make great music with those tools. So part of this grade is about kind of developing that skill set and making more of it to make your performance of music and your connection with music bigger and better before we start getting into more technical sort of stuff. So if you've got any problems or questions, let me know in the comments. On the website is better. It's more likely to get a response if you ask the questions over there. Like I said, there's 6 songs for you now, but I'm going to add some more songs as well. It's one of those things where trying to mine exactly the right songs that have not got too complicated parts in it or something funky that gets confusing. It takes a little bit of time for me to do, but I'm planning on adding, I'm hoping 10 for each one of these lessons, 10 choices. Like I said, you don't have to do all of them. You could do some of them or many of them. It's completely up to you. Last little hint that I just thought of, when it comes to getting a sound, if you're working out a kind of a rock and roll, crunchy rock thing, it can help to have a little bit of distortion on your guitar. I very often transcribe using an acoustic guitar. Even a rock song doesn't make much difference to me, but again, in these early stages where you're trying to keep things as easy as possible, if you've got just a little bit of crunch in your sound when you're trying to work it out, that probably help things along. Not too much. Don't go crazy with the gain, because too much gain can make it hard as well, and it makes it all noisy, and every time you move your fingers around you get all scratchy and stuff. So just a bit of crunchy sort of sound probably help you out a bit there. Let me know how you get on. Don't put the chords for the songs in the comments, by the way, and let everyone see them. Okay, don't do that, but let me know what songs did you work out, because I'd love to see which ones are the most popular of the list that I've given you so far. Let me know what songs you worked out, how long did it take you to work them out. If you got suggestions for other songs that maybe you've worked out on your own as well that you think would be awesome that I've somehow missed out from the list, let me know as well. Maybe I'll include them in a future lesson. And I think that's about it. Hope you really enjoyed this. If you're over on Tube, I really appreciate you hitting the subscribe button, the bell icon if you want to watch me do live transcribing, which I do on YouTube sometimes with loads of good fun. So check that out. Remember, over on the website there's tons and tons of extra resources for you that are going to help you with all of these things, including the full grade 3 course, which will help you bridge your way from a beginner to an intermediate guitar player. Hope you're having an absolutely fantastic day and you enjoyed this stuff. I'll see you for plenty more very soon. Take care. Bye.